Chrystia Freeland just gave her 2022 federal budget update. This provides all of the information for like what they're going to be doing and spending their money on going forward, and we're going to go through all the highlights that we just listened through on the stream there. So she says that there's going to be 3 pillars of investment over the next year, and those 3 pillars are investing in people, and housing, and in the workforce, investing in the green economy, and 3, investing in innovation. So pillar 1, she starts with housing, obviously a very big topic right now in Canada. She says that housing is a basic human need, but also an economic imperative, and saying that Canada doesn't have enough homes and we need more and we need them fast. So already off to a good start here, saying, hey, we're going to focus on supply rather than giving people funds to buy the current supply. We want to build more homes. So this is the promise that they made. They said over the next 10 years, we're going to double the amount of new homes we build. Now, this sounds quite good, but when you get into the stats of it, they're not doubling the amount of homes in total in Canada, just the amount of new housing starts that the government has built. So this year, that was around 60,000. So they're saying by 2030, or 2032 rather, they want to be at around 120 to 140,000 new starts in that year. So an increase in the amount of homes being built, but not at a very, like an extremely fast rate, right? This is a long-term plan. And they say that we're going to make sure that houses are used as homes, not investments, banning foreign ownership. We'll get more into that in a little bit. And that there isn't a silver bullet for housing, and that not everyone will live exactly where they want to live, in the neighborhood they want to live, for the price they want to live. She says, hey, that's just not going to happen. That's the first time we kind of heard that sentiment out of Chrystia Freeland. The next part here is that she says we need a growing workforce to sort of prop up the economy, and that we have a lack of workers, and this is all around the world. And then she then goes into a sort of section of the speech saying, hey, we've done a great job because in 2020, we had the fastest population growth in major developed countries. Now, this was interesting that she chose to sort of go into this area right away after just saying, hey, we don't have enough homes for every Canadian, and then patting themselves on the back for saying, hey, we brought more Canadians in than ever, or than any other country in the most recent years. So a little bit of like a little bit of a contradiction, which is the good thing, because obviously you can sort of see how the two can affect each other. So they say that they want to make it more affordable for skilled trade workers to get to work, and that there will be an enhanced Canada Workers Benefit. Now, this could be a benefit that can go out to more Canadians than ever before. I believe that Jagmeet Singh sort of let slip here that, hey, there's going to be a changes to the Canada's Worker Benefit. More people will be eligible for it. On the channel over the coming days, we're going to be going into more depth on what these benefits are, who can apply for them. And if you're listening on the stream right now and not the replay video, which I'll sort of post this as another video, then we're going to go into this directly after we do this recap. But you can sort of find the stream in the videos as well if you're checking this out after the fact. So then they say, okay, well, we want to invest in the workforce, we want to invest in housing, we also want to continue investing in affordable childcare. This is what they announced last budget, and they say, hey, we've actually come through, we have all these agreements with the provinces, we're getting down to a $10 a day average for childcare. One of the biggest promises from the Liberals, and one that they've actually been making progress on. So she also goes into this section where she talks about saying, hey, these are certainly social policies. These are left-leaning social policies where we support Canadians, support workers. But she says, hey, that doesn't mean that they're not also economic policies. She says by investing in people, in these things that are going to increase productivity, well, we're actually making a better impact on the economy. And she says that, hey, we're mirroring Janet Yellen. If you don't know, that's the finance minister in the States, right? The head of finance, kind of like Chrystia Freeland's counterpart in America. So she says that when we're in a supply crunch like we are right now, too many people, too many dollars chasing too few goods, inflation, we need to spend more on social policies to lead supply growth. Now, some people will say that's not the case. It's actually like all of this government spending and the support from the Bank of Canada will actually lead to more inflation, but that's a debate for another day. The third pillar, they said, hey, we need to start innovating as a country. We haven't innovated in the past. We need to improve in this area. So they say that they're going to create a brand new Canada Growth Fund, attracting lots of private capital to build our economy. So we're going to go in, again, in more depth in the coming days to what these actually mean. But this sounds like more public dollars going into some sort of new agency that can choose which companies that they fund, but also to try to attract private capital. So perhaps they're going to issue bonds or something like this to raise a bunch of money to then invest in Canadian businesses. It'll be interesting to see how that actually plays out. They also say they're going to invest in the Canadian mineral industry, and they want to make Canada this really big powerhouse in terms of developing electric vehicles. Of course, we have many of the minerals that you need to create electric vehicle batteries. So they're saying, hey, we need to develop the infrastructure to really pump those out, as well as them saying that, hey, we're going to put EV chargers all across the country, electric vehicle chargers, and we're also going to make it more affordable for Canadians to own electric vehicles. Now, traditionally, electric vehicles, many of them have been sort of in the luxury price range. Now that's starting to change with more and more manufacturers coming out with more consumer priced models. But this language does make it seem like the government's going to provide more rebates and more sort of tax benefits for people who buy electric vehicles. So I'm not sure who exactly that's going to apply to. Some people will be frustrated saying, hey, why are you giving people who are already rich and can afford electric vehicles more tax breaks? But we'll have to actually dig in to see if it's going to only people under a certain income, if it's income tested. We'll find all of that out very soon. But she ends that section saying it's time for Canada to tackle innovation, and that we're through these new funds and this new agency, the new Innovation and Investment Agency, they're going to give companies the tools they need to grow, create new jobs. Interestingly, and not surprisingly though, nothing related here to the digital asset industry. This is where my bias comes in a little bit, but I think that this is one of the sectors that's most poised for growth, most poised for innovation, and I'm really disappointed that there's not more investment here from Canada to make Canada a better place to be building companies around that industry. I kind of feel like it's like the internet in the early 90s, where people are like, it's a scam. People don't know like the actual tech behind it, because on the surface, of course, there's lots of scams and pump and dumps, but when you dig a little bit deeper, this is a new tech that I personally think is going to change the world. Disappointing that there's not better sort of policies here to try to develop more GDP via that sector in Canada, which would be good for the government because they'd be able to collect more tax revenue. So clearly no one's taking a stance on that yet. And then the final section of this speech focused very heavily on Ukraine and Vladimir Putin and the war that's going on there, saying very strongly they are war criminals. We have the best sanctions in the world, but we need to vanquish their armies. But maybe we won't do that. We hope that the Ukrainian people will. And Christopher Freeland says, money and missiles. That's what we're going to give to the Ukrainians. We're going to immediately invest in our armed forces. And we also want an immediate defense policy review, potentially to spend more on Canadian defense. So those are the pillars of the statement. Like I said, check in on the stream if you're not already watching it, if you're watching the recap video, because we're going to go into a little bit more depth here on the actual document and all of the sort of nitty gritty that maybe she didn't mention in this speech. So let me know in the comments what you think of all of this, and if you think that this budget is satisfactory. What do you think of these three pillars? Are they missing anything? No mention of a UBI, even though it was a very tightly NDP Liberal coalition, like quasi-coalition here. So interesting stuff. Let me know, and thanks for watching.